It's October 19th, which is a Saturday. As you can see, I'm wearing my hoodie. It's starting to get a little chilly around here. I only have so much relatively warm weather left this far north before it starts getting too cold to do anything two-wheel drive. And so I recorded a video yesterday that I published that was about what's keeping me from finishing this. Because this car right now is like that Schrodinger's cat thing where, it's either alive or dead. And until I open that box, it might still be alive. And I don't have the fortitude right now because of a bunch of other stuff that's been happening to bear it if I find out the cat's dead. And so I'm going to push through that. Like, I'm not going to let the doldrums get me. So what I'm going to do today to kind of just rip the Band-Aid off, as they say, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it up and get it going. What's going on down here is that I have this huge stack of notes that I need to transcribe into something that's a real document, because a lot about this car has changed. I've been trying to do OEM Plus. OEM Plus is kind of the language that everyone seems to have agreed upon for updating a car using equipment that may not have been available at the time the car was originally manufactured, or deciding to spend money on certain priorities that the accountants and bean counters and whatever didn't approve spending when the car was first built. That can be as simple as putting premium quality shocks on a car that didn't originally handle as well as it could, upgrading the brakes, but doing everything as if the OEM was doing it, like doing it like a director's cut of what originally was there. And that's kind of my flavor. I don't like having cars that introduce new problems. I don't like having, well, okay, it does this better, but it does all that stuff worse. I want it to do everything better. The compromise I'm making is that I'm spending more potentially money than what the factory chose to spend when it was first built, or there's not a compromise. It's just that in the last 30 years, a few things have gotten better. Aside from a mess, what we have down here is this is an extra pigtail of wiring that came with the ECU. And this has a ton of extra wires. Like, this has for functions that I'm not going to be using. This is stuff like for doing nitrous purge. This is stuff for doing boost control. This is stuff for doing like automatic transmission control. All sorts of stuff that I'm just not going to be using. I really don't need a very long pigtail on it. I only need a couple of inches. And so what I'm going to be doing is taking the ECU back out for the 5,000th time, and I'm going to trim those guys back and give them like a standard 4-inch, service loop. And then I'm going to individually tape all of those things off. I don't have aglets, but maybe I'll just individually heat shrink them just to make sure that they're nice and cleanly done. And then after that, they're not going to have this huge snake. The next thing I'm going to do is that I have a USB extension that is panel mount, and I'm going to panel mount the USB somewhere. I have not yet decided precisely where that's going to go, but we'll panel mount the USB, and that's going to make it so that I can put the glove box back in, and I can just put all this stuff back in place where it belongs, maybe for the last time, and then this will be a lot easier to work with. The next part I got to do after that is start doing some tuning. This thing runs, and once it's warmed up, it runs really well. It accelerates well. The air-to-fuel ratios stay pretty good for the most part. I'm struggling with some minor drivability stuff. Part of that is cold running, like cold start. It doesn't want to idle when it's cold. I struggle with that quite a bit. I was having some trouble with hysteresis, especially when the air conditioner's turned on, because it's supposed to up throttle a little bit whenever the air conditioner's on, and it doesn't. So I'm going to have to stop recording for now, because recording is going to delay me from doing the work. I'll talk to you in a minute when I've got this buttoned up. I'm telling you all the sabotage! I probably should talk about these guys here too. Those are all going to get taped up with Tessa tape, because I don't have any small split loom, and there's not really ends on them where I can slide, shrink over the whole thing. So they'll get Tessa taped. And their jobs are, one of them is for the evap purge canister, one of them is for the EGR solenoid, and the last one is for the AC up idle, so that it knows when the AC is running to turn up the idle or to change the idle table on the ECU. can't keep hiding from it. I need to actually get this thing going now. So what I've got is everything's buttoned up down there. I know it's too dark to see properly, and I've got Tuner Studio running here. It doesn't idle well, and that's the job I have to do next, is get it to idle well, especially when cold. It struggles with that. The struggle that I have with that is not only am I not super comfortable in Tuner Studio yet, but the other part is that the previous owner put on a Drone Master exhaust that is real loud. And I'm sure that if you're blasting up a mountain road, shifting through the gears, getting 6,000 RPM, I'm sure it sounds cool. But idling badly in my little quiet neighborhood, not cool. It's a way to meet neighbors, and you'll meet one or two guys who are cool and are like, yeah, that thing sounds badass, you should paint it though. And then you'll also meet people who are like, that's loud, with the implication that they'd prefer if it wasn't. And I'm with them. I'm kind of a quiet exhaust dude. I like refined stuff. So at some point we'll get some quieter exhaust on there. And you know, I'll sell the loud exhaust to someone else. So if you love loud exhaust, don't worry. There will continue to be loud exhaust. It'll just be on someone else's car, not mine. And so let's go ahead and stop delaying and start starting. It should start, which means that I'll be able to pull outside and not be in my garage huffing my own exhaust. Like, that sounds, not my own exhaust, I mean the car's own exhaust. Outside there, and then we'll see if we can do a little this or that to get it to idle better. At some point it'll just warm up, and then it idles well when it's warm, as long as I don't turn on the air conditioner. So this is kind of where I'm hitting a wall, because I'm not learning anything, and that means I'm not making progress. Because I get random inputs just from random stuff all the time, I don't get the opportunity to associate inputs with outputs. I don't get the opportunity to change what I'm doing to become better. So what I probably am going to have to do is either save up a pile of money and then pay someone who knows Tuner Studio to just tune everything for me so I can walk away from it. Or alternately, I have to somehow make some friends who know Tuner Studio, locally I mean, so we can just hang out and I can see how they did theirs, because I'm not learning anything. I'm just not learning a thing here. So let's go get some gasoline. I don't know where there's like not a good place to clip you in. It's gassed up. It's idling okay. It's running fairly well. You think I ought to take it for a drive out in the country? And so right now we're in fifth gear, going about 45 to 48 miles per hour. Engine RPM is like 1350 to 1400, I guess, RPM. I have 3.08 to 1 differential gears, and of course manual transmission in here. It's having no trouble climbing this hill in fifth gear. I imagine if I gave it some free holays, yeah, it doesn't really want to accelerate up this hill, but it is in fifth gear, going relatively slow RPM, so I don't really expect it to be right in the middle of its fattest torque curve there. Okay, so I'm going to pull off to the side of the road here real quick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this to the ECU. And then this is part of tuning, so I'm also going to be doing a 0 to 60. Let's see what we get here. Okay, that's not good. thinking I was going to do a 0 to 60 run, but it just didn't actually catch it. So let's go ahead and pull in here and turn around, and we'll try that again, the other direction. It says wait, calibrating. Start anytime, so hopefully it does it. Okay, it says 0 to 60 in 6.55 seconds. I probably could do better than that. I don't think that's a wonderful time. I kind of screwed up a couple of things about it. But let's go ahead and turn around and try that one more time. All right, hopefully I don't have any traffic behind me. And I can stop, and I can do one of these, calibrate. We'll see what it does. Come on, hurry up. I'm not trying to do quarter mile, I'm just trying to get up to 60. So this thing, yeah, it says like 17 seconds quarter mile, but that's because I stopped accelerating like at 60. What do we see here? Zero to 60 in 6.3 seconds. So yeah, that's not terrible, I guess, for, you know, just randomly kind of being out here, and of course not having it actually tuned properly. I'll take that. I'm sure it can do better. I think this is a beautiful place to come over to and drive. It just goes along the river. I like to ride my mountain bike down here too. There's some trails between this road here and the river down there. And also back on the other side behind the golf course, there's some. I don't think the golf course itself is all that beautiful, but everyone's got their way of doing recreation, and that's, you know, for a lot of people, golf is the way they do it. I like mini golf. I think mini golf is pretty fun, but never really had a whole lot of fun trying to do the big kind of golf. Maybe you got to be drinking to do it. I don't know. Anyway, I suppose that I've probably got enough done today on this. I've proven that it runs pretty well, actually. I got a 0 to 60 time recorded, and I think that's okay. So let's get back home. See you in a minute. I suppose fair's fair. I've got a neighbor who's running a quad back and forth, and every time I start trying to record, they start revving it again, but I was running this loud ass car, so fair's fair. Anyway, I guess that I dodged a bullet or whatever. It's not really dodged a bullet. I opened up the box and the cat was alive, so that turned out to be a big relief for me. I wasn't quite sure I was going to get the car running at all this weekend, and it seems to be running pretty good. I have still not figured out what is going on with the cold idle on it. And there's a few things that are still a little inconsistent on it that I need to figure out why they're inconsistent, because right now I'm not learning anything. And, you know, when you get like random inputs and they can't correlate them to anything, a little frustrating. But it runs really well right now as long as it's warmed up. That's a win. I don't trust it for long distances yet. It's going to take a while to build up that trust in the car, and that may not happen until next summer, but we're on track. We're doing pretty good there. So the moral of the story here is, if there's something that you've been dreading finding out the results of, dreading finishing a project because you don't want the rejection that comes from doing it badly, dreading getting a lump checked out, you know, like if you've been dreading it, one step at a time. I know that's cliche advice, but that's kind of all we got. The alternative is to lay down and die. And I don't judge people who choose that route, but I hope you don't. So anyway, if you got anything that you'd like to contribute, add it down below. You know how that works. Thanks for watching.